nation's capital, Washington, D.C. It's Kickfannie's Big Thinking with Akia Garnett, CEO for Brain Builder and creator of Tuesday Branding. Welcome to today's show. So, Akia, what's new?
Hello, Washington, D.C. This is Akia Garnett, your host, and I'm so happy to be on with you today because I'm going to be spending time with an amazing woman. She's just great. She's got a lot of energy, a lot of experience, a lot of talent, and she's going to help us understand in the C-suite how we can do something as simple as fill our executive management team with the top performing experts in their industry. It sounds like a tall order, doesn't it, Stephanie Eberhart?
It does, Akia. Thank you so much and good morning.
Great. Thank you so much. Stephanie is the co-founder and managing partner at Talent Remedy. And before we get started, Stephanie, tell us a little bit about Talent Remedy and what that's all about.
Well, thank you, Akia. Talent Remedy is a firm that I founded with my partner 2 years ago after I'd spent 20 years in the recruiting field. And basically what we do is we help organizations, typically 25 to 500 people organizations, find top talent in a variety of areas, management, IT, engineering, accounting and finance, sales, and also in human resources.
Great. And so, Stephanie, how important is it to really understand the vision and mission of a company, especially when you are recruiting people in the C-suite?
It is absolutely critical to understand that. As a matter of fact, to me, it's more important to understand that than the skill sets. Now, yes, people have to have the appropriate skills for the position that they're being hired into, but if they don't fit well into the culture of the organization or they cannot work well with the management style, then it's not going to be a successful hire. And it's going to turn out to be a situation where both parties don't feel comfortable with the arrangement. So it is absolutely critical to hire into a person that can fit well into the culture.
Yeah, and when you do have those unsuccessful placements, how challenging is, or what is your steps or the process that you take to replace someone at that top level?
Well, I have to tell you, I am pleased in that the 2 years that we've been in business, we've actually only had to do one replacement.
Oh, wow.
And I think the reason is because we spend a lot of time on culture and leadership style and understanding that. And we typically do a couple of interviews with key people that report to the leaders that we're trying to hire positions for.
Yeah.
However, though, when something doesn't work out, we do a deep dive with both the candidates and with the company to figure out where the fit went wrong. And typically, one or both knew that it wasn't a perfect fit in the beginning, but didn't voice that.
And so when you're replacing folks, I mean, sometimes is it out of an incompetency thing, or is it more so just out of a difference of opinion or difference of direction?
It usually isn't out of incompetency because, as I said, the skill sets that we screen for and interview for, that's, we find the right people that have the skills. It is always about whether they can work well with the management style more than anything.
Mm-hmm. So then when you have smaller companies who are hoping to recruit that top talent, especially if they've got real big dreams and ambitions for their company, how can small business owners create some sizzle around their business and their brand, even when they're not competing with some of the bigger giants in their industry?
Well, I will tell you that, to me, those are the most exciting companies to work for,
mm-hmm.
and I share that often with the candidates that I work with. But what they need to do is they need to be their own best advocate, and they need to share their vision and where they've come from.
Mm-hmm.
So people love to hear about how people have built companies, where their vision came from, what their motivation was, what their passions are. And so if you can make an individual feel passionate about your mission and goals, those are how you get people to come aboard to the smaller organizations because they want to be part of that excitement.
Yeah, and then what are some of the biggest mistakes that you see executives make when they are placing top talent?
The biggest mistakes that I've seen are, they want to hire people that are exactly like them.
Yeah.
And so oftentimes executives need to realize that they need to surround themselves with people, even if those people sometimes bring up topics that are uncomfortable, because those uncomfortable topics sometimes need to be addressed. And people that aren't yes people can help you with those challenges. The other mistake that I often see is that they don't want to really spend the time talking to the recruiting firm about what kind of person they need.
Okay.
They just assume that everybody is hiring the same kind of person. But you really, again, have to be your own best advocate, share your vision and your mission and your passion and your goals, in addition to sharing what type of skills you're looking for. So it's not sharing enough information is the second biggest problem.
How do you jump in and help the executive management teams when they are not really sure on how to communicate what they're actually looking for?
So we do a lot of conversations with the management teams. We spend at least an hour, sometimes more, with one single position, just talking about, where they want this person to fill a void, what their main responsibilities are going to be, where they see them, how are the responsibilities going to change in 6 months, a year, 3 years, what are their expectations of the people that they're hiring, how will they be measuring the people that they're hiring. If it's a replacement and maybe they had someone leave their company for some reason, then we talk about why that person left. The biggest challenge is that as companies scale, sometimes the people you hire to begin with the company are not the right people to take you to the next level.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So either you have to bring those people along with you and give them the training and the skills to be able to take you to the next level, or you have to make some hard decisions either to shift them into another spot or to possibly replace them with somebody that can get you to the next level. But in the companies, as I had mentioned, between 25 and 500 employees, that's a tremendous challenge.
Yeah. Do you think that CEOs should keep a file of prospects, if you will?
Absolutely. I'm a firm believer that CEOs should always have a pipeline of candidates, if nothing else for informational reasons, to be able to reach out, to talk about best practices. Hiring should not be just, let me just do it when I have an opening.
Yeah.
It should be continuous conversations. And the smartest business people I know have those continuous conversations. They see them as value.
Wow. I'm going to ask you to just expand upon that just a little bit more, because I think that is definitely that's contrary to what most people think, I believe. I think, as you said, people think let's hire when we have an opening versus let's keep this as a continuous conversation. And I think a lot of people fear that, especially when they are, out there looking for jobs. Like, is this, a real opportunity, or am I going to be with an organization that will replace me as soon as they get a chance? How can you speak a little bit more to what you just said? Because I love that idea, and I definitely think it's not beheld as much as it could be.
Well, it's interesting because I think the leaders who do that, the executives that do that, are transparent enough that they don't intimidate people that are working for them into thinking that their job might be in jeopardy. Mm-hmm. That they see that there are people who seek relationships and information, and as I said before, best practices within businesses. And so they want to surround themselves, and they want their people to surround themselves with the very best people.
Great.
And I believe, I'm in the recruiting field. I have a lot of relationships with people who are their own business owners. And the reason I do that is because I learn from them. And the more people I can surround myself with that have knowledge and experience and who are willing to share, the better I'm going to be, and vice versa. So I'm a firm believer that it should be a continuous cycle of recruiting. I will tell you, though, that the biggest challenge for most executives is time. Mm-hmm. But well worth the time spent. If you spend an hour on it a week, it's well worth it.
That's great. Wow. So do you have any tips for folks if they are thinking of perhaps building a set of, qualities that they should be looking for, or that they could be looking for in new hires, especially at the top levels?
So what I would share with you is that they should become involved in some type of group, whether it's a CEO roundtable, a CFO roundtable, something at the C-suite, or an organization that those type of people gather together. And in doing that, they will start to build those relationships, and then they'll start to talk to other business executives about their hiring challenges, and they will build a network that way, because the best people, and I know I own a recruiting firm, but this is the truth, come from internal referrals.
Yeah.
It's a given reference right off the bat. Somebody's not going to refer someone that they don't believe in, number one. But number two, they've seen their work. The referral has seen this person's work, and they feel confident. So it is important to have those networks, and it also gives you access to people that you would not normally know about.
Yeah.
Whether it's through a job board or through LinkedIn or through a user group, they wouldn't normally know these people.
Yeah, and Stephanie, nowadays with the social business concept and companies that are really moving toward information technology and data being owned by all people in the C-suite versus just your chief technology officer or your chief marketing officer. How does that and how has that changed the recruiting concept and the candidate skill sets that you see and expect to see from people who are looking for those leadership type roles?
Well, the technology field will never go away. So we know that it's boomed in the last 20 years since everybody has a PC on their desk at this point. But what I will tell you is that the people in technology, the demand is greater than the skills available. So there's a lot of schools out there, colleges as well as high schools, putting development programs in place for technology. What I would encourage those executives to do is to develop relationships with the organizations that A, are advocates of technology education, and B, the schools that those people are coming out of. Not only in new recruits, but also in alumni associations.
Yeah. And do you think that, or do you have any statistics on how many groups actually use recruiters or professional human resources experts to help them with their placement and hirings, or versus those who kind of do it themselves? And not saying that it's not going to work out when they do it themselves, but naturally, I'm sure there would be some steps that may be overlooked when you don't focus on getting someone to help you who's really got a professional background.
Right. So on a direct hire basis, when you hire somebody as a full-time employee and you use a recruiter to do that, at one time or another, at least 50% of the firms have used a recruiting firm. Mm-hmm. There's other types of hiring, though. The other type is temp to hire, which is where they start out as a temporary employee and then hopefully go permanent once their trial period is up. Yeah. So more people use the latter simply because it's there's positions, lower level positions that they need them for, and it's a good way to test the skill set out.
Great. And so also when it comes to helping small business owners beef up their human resources capability and their recruiting capability, do you have any tips for how they can start that process?
For beefing up the HR and recruiting?
Yep, doing it in a way that's compliant with, human resources laws, or maybe even going according to SHRM and some of the things that they put out to help businesses stay compliant and to stay knowledgeable on how to maintain a healthy work environment, a healthy culture, and to maintain their whatever it is required from a legal perspective.
Absolutely. So I will tell you that a lot of the firms, smaller firms that I work with, outsource their HR and their recruiting. Mm-hmm. So they've got very driven executives who are focusing on building the business, which is what they should be focused on. And they outsource their HR and recruiting simply so that they have an expert that has all the resources available to them to help them with their human capital needs. And those resources typically have good relationships with the local SHRM chapter, SHRM headquarters in Alexandria. There's continuing education that's provided through those organizations as well. And there's also a couple other local groups here in D.C. It's HR Leadership Forum is another good human resource group. But typically they do... if they decide to outsource, that's a good solution. If not, they need to hire somebody who probably has an HR background, a previous HR background, that is staying up in tune with what the latest laws are, and they are continuously changing. So they need to be very abreast of that.
Yeah, and in your opinion, what are some companies that you see getting it right?
So I will tell you that a couple of the companies in the smaller range, like 25 to 500, that are getting it right. There's a company in McLean called Octo Consulting, which has scaled very quickly. They're a government contractor, have an excellent work environment and culture. They've done extremely well. I will say in terms of the larger ones, I think probably one of the really good ones in the area is Hilton. Mm-hmm. Which is based in McLean. Yeah. Again, another healthy work environment. People like going to work, good attitudes. And then the other one is Capital One, which is also based in McLean, that has tremendous programs. Of course, they're large organizations, so they can develop, very robust corporate responsibility type programs for their employees. They do a lot of community outreach. What I will tell you I have found is that people not only want to be in a job that they enjoy, meaning they like the company they work for, they like the leadership, they believe in the mission of the organization, but they want to be with a company that has a vision outside of just what they're doing for a living. They want to see them giving back to the community. They want to see them making a difference in the world.
Yeah, I'm so glad you said that, because when I look at some of the statistics, especially regarding what motivates people, what motivates CEOs, it rarely is money. And it's kind of funny to say that because they tend to make so much of it. But what tends to motivate most of us, I believe, at our core, is that we actually get to do what we love. And we get to do something and contribute to something that's greater than who we are, or greater than what we can do by ourselves in life. And so when you are out there and you're assessing different people and thinking about who might make a good placement for your clients, what are some of the things that you look for? And also, what are some of the things that you found they are looking for aside from the money?
So, as I was mentioning about the corporate social responsibility part, so many people really are looking for that right now, especially the millennial generation, because they've been raised with all these wonderful nonprofits and in the area, and belonging to groups that have done some great work in our community, and so they want to have that. So that's a big part of it, is in addition to just the everyday job, what does the company want to back and believe in? Absolutely, it's about culture and what type of work environment, and no two businesses are the same. I can have a client that's in professional services, IT, and they have a very strict dress code. Everybody works in a gray cubicle, heads down, very little communication. I can go to the office next door, does exactly the same thing, and everybody is dressed very casually, lots of conversation, free flowing, game room, all of that stuff. So it really depends on the vision of the executive team and what they want to portray and the type of people that they want to attract. But the most important thing is that the person feels that they can fit into that environment, and the only way you can really figure that out is by spending some time there. So I usually encourage companies to try to have a shadowing day with the person that's coming aboard. Invite them out to your office, have them spend 4 to 6 hours with your staff, walking around, talking to a few different people in different departments, seeing how people interact, seeing what the day looks like, to really get a good feel. As you know, everybody is on their best behavior, both when you're an interviewer and you're the interviewee. So it's when you can finally let your hair down a little bit that you can figure out whether it's a good match for both parties.
That's a great, great idea. It's a great way to get people acclimated into an environment and also give them an opportunity to assess whether or not it's a good fit for them as well. And I think that in the past, we would interview for a job hoping they liked us. But, nowadays it's, well, I hope I like you as well.
Well, I look at it very much, I compare it to a marriage. Because you spend more time at work than you do with your spouse. And I always say, you're on a dating period for a long time before you get married. Well, not for a real long time, but for a period of time before you get married. But when you interview for a job, you're usually there in an executive level position, probably, 2-3 times. You spent maybe 4 to 6, maybe 12 hours maximum with these people. But you're going to be spending the majority of your day. So it is crucial that you really take the time to understand the vision, goals, and ask the difficult questions, about profit and turnover and goals and investors and all those things that kind of make people feel uncomfortable, but have to be asked in order to figure out if it's the right place.
And this is some of the things that we see, which are common inside the Beltway. When you go outside the Beltway, the Washington, D.C. metropolitan Beltway, or even in Baltimore and some of the other cities that are so close to us, whereas we have a lot of market overlap. But sometimes when I travel outside of this area in general, it just seems so different, Stephanie. The things the things that motivate business owners, the things that motivate CEOs and entrepreneurs and just average workers every day, they are just different. And so when you're working with transplants from different cities, but they've got a tremendous resume, they've got such a great background, they've got the passion, the heart. How do you help them, I guess, navigate and also settle into this environment? And also, how do you, if you have worked with clients outside of this area, how do you approach those other marketplaces?
So I will tell you that we do work outside the Metro DC area, but in terms of the candidates that are being relocated here from other areas, the first question I always ask is, A, have you ever lived here at all, or have you ever visited the Washington DC area?
Yeah.
If they have not, I strongly encourage them to reach out to people in their network that either live here currently or have lived here, because this is a very unique area. We are very fortunate. Wonderful area to live in, lots of resources, lots of culture, many things to do, but it's a very fast-paced environment. People are extremely driven. They have goals, missions that they're focused on, and you can sometimes, if you're coming from another area, feel like you're run over.
Yep.
And so, there are parts of the country that I personally visited, I think, gosh, these people would never really fit into this. But you'd be surprised if they do their homework, they really can acclimate.
Yeah.
But in addition to that, there's other factors like cost of living here, traffic, where people live in terms of the size of the home for the price that they're paying, things like that really come into play.
Yeah.
I never encourage somebody to take a job from out of town unless they've spent at least a week in the Washington, D.C. area exploring it.
Yeah, that's a great idea. That's a great idea. So if you're a CEO and you've got someone out there that you're looking at, but they're not in this city, take heed to what Stephanie had to say. Make sure that you've got it perhaps in your budget to bring this person here and give them time to get to know the city. Because
that's exactly right.
What you see when you're here on a temporary 1 or 2 day trip is a lot different than what you'll see when you spend some real time in the city.
That's exactly right. Sometimes, you know what, just spending 2 hours on a bench in the middle of D.C. is great observation time for somebody.
Yes. And sometimes when you're in those top level positions, you will find yourself sitting on benches a lot and thinking through a lot of heavy, high level things. I've done some of my best thinking sitting on a bench.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. So tell us, Stephanie, just for fun, what are some things on your bucket list?
So on my bucket list, I do have a couple of interesting things that I'd like to do. One of them is I'd actually like to go down to Costa Rica and do some of the zip lines down there. I've heard it's an amazing place to visit and some of the best zip lines in the world, so I'd like to do that. Another thing on my bucket list is I'd like to go to Austria, and I'd like to go during the wintertime and go skiing on some of their mountains, because I heard there's incredible skiing in Austria. And then I would like to at some point go back down to Key West. It's been probably 25 years since I've been down there, and I never went deep sea snorkeling down there. So I'd like to spend some time doing some snorkeling in the water.
Great. That's just awesome. As a CEO, a co-founder and managing partner for your company, for Talent Remedy, what are some ways that you unplug?
Well, I actually unplug a couple different ways. I'm fortunate that I grew up in the area, so I've got a great network of friends here. So I try to spend at least 4 evenings a week with friends, believe it or not. My kids have left the nest, and I'm an empty nester, and I find that being surrounded by thinking people who have the same values and goals as I do really rejuvenate me.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. I exercise every single day. I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I go for a 5-mile walk.
That's awesome.
Before I start my day.
Yeah.
And that gets my blood going. It gives me time to plan. It gives me time to think about what I need to accomplish.
Yeah.
And also to do a little bit of praying on my walk.
That's great.
Those people that are in my prayers on that particular day. And then I recently, because I'm an empty nester, I took up golf, which I never had time to do before, so I play golf now, and I like to travel a lot, so I take long weekends whenever I can.
That's great. It's so important. It's so important when we are moving in our vision. We are just busy working every single day. We've got to find real ways to unplug that make us feel as if we are truly celebrating each day. And I like some of the things that you do, Stephanie. That is just great. And listeners, Stephanie and I have something in common, many, many things in common, but one thing for sure in common on the surface is that we're both parents of two college children. Both of our children are, both of us have a junior and both of us have a freshman in college. And that's been a very fun and interesting thing to talk with you about, Stephanie. I wish you and your family the best of success. I wish you the best of success with Talent Remedy. I thank you so, so much for spending time with me today on Big Thinking. And I want to ask you to give us your URL so that people can get a hold of you out there if they're interested.
Well, thank you so much again. I do appreciate you having me on the show. It has been a delight to talk with you. Our website is www.talentremedy, TALENTREMEDY.com.
Great. Thank you so much, Stephanie. You've been listening to Big Thinking with Akia Garnett. This is a Tuesday show every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Big Thinking is part of my Tuesday branding program. It starts on Tuesday morning at 10 a.m. with the Akia Garnett Show, and then we have Big Thinking at 6 p.m. You can find that at Kickfannie.com, and then on Tuesday nights, join me at 8 p.m. and 9:15 for 2 tweet chats. The first one is My Brand Chat, and the second is iBrand Chat. The I stands for international, so we are focused not only on helping small businesses in the domestic U.S. marketplace, but across the world. Thank you so much for spending time with us today. We'll see you next time on Big Thinking.
You've been listening to Kickfannie's Big Thinking with Akia Garnett, a Kickfannie production. Akia Garnett is a Kickfannie.com contributor, and she's CEO for Brain Builder, and a national columnist for Minority Business Entrepreneur magazine, a leading source in supplier diversity and inclusion. Be sure to join Akia for Tuesday Gaming on social media, and she brings news from across all platforms for small business owners and entrepreneurs all day, starting with the Akia Garnett Show at 10 a.m. Eastern, and Kickfannie's Big Thinking with Akia Garnett at 6 p.m. Eastern, ending with My Brand Chat on Tuesday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern. See the full Tuesday lineup at Kickfannie.com and KiaGarnett.com. And we'll see you next week on Kickfannie's Big Thinking with Akia Garnett.